Hi, everybody. This is Leigh Daniel, and I am an attorney in Huntsville, Alabama. I'm also the owner of Project Positive Change. I have an event venue, Lee Acres in Huntsville, and an art gallery, Gallery 111. And this is my beautiful host, Allison. And Allison, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Hi everyone, yeah, I am Allison. I'm Allison Reiner, and I am a relationship and communication expert. I work in Europe, out of Milan. And I don't own any art galleries anywhere, but I do help you work out the best way to communicate, either in a work situation or a relationship situation, either in love or in friendship.
And this is not legal advice. And the reason that I've called it This Is Not Legal Advice is because Allison and I work together to help you with issues before, during, and after a divorce. Or if you have some other issue related to relationship. As Allison said, she's a relationship coach. I've been a divorce lawyer for 27 years. So between us, we have a lot of knowledge about relating. And what we're here to help you with is the way you relate in the world and how you relate to other people.
That's exactly what we're here to do. And between us, we've had our fair share of relationships. So we've got our own personal experience to bring to the table, as well as our professional experience.
This is not legal advice. And today, Allison and I are going to talk about how to stay sane during the pandemic. And Allison knows a lot about that, unless she's much crazier than she seems, because she is in Italy, which is where they started the lockdown, right in Milan. So Allison, can you tell us a little about your story of being in lockdown and the pandemic? Because I know that it has really taken a toll on tons of relationships. Divorce rate is skyrocketing. So coming from the home of it all, tell everybody how, some tips on staying sane.
Okay, well, yeah, you're absolutely right. We've been now pretty much in lockdown for 12 months, and it's been a tough lockdown for us. We have been housebound, especially during the first part of the lockdown. We were, as a country, housebound for a long time, for at least 4 months. And talking to colleagues and talking to policemen, friends of mine who are policemen, we said that for the longest time, the only phone calls they were getting, unfortunately, were domestic abuse situations and suicides. And I think, that's something that we all know has been a big part of the lockdown, not just here in Italy, across the world. And it doesn't, of course, it doesn't have to get to that stage to make it uncomfortable, to make it unpleasant. We all have our own issues. And certainly, I'd love to say that being a relationship expert, we've sailed through the lockdown. But no, we've had our own difficulties, because suddenly your life goes from being huge and going out every morning and seeing people and relating to people and having stories to tell each other, to suddenly being stuck in 4 walls, living, working, having a relationship, trying to make time to keep a relationship going. And really, being bored, apart from anything else, being bored and boring each other. So, it's not just the big issues that you have to deal with, the domestic abuse issues, which are horrendous. Of course, they're horrendous. But there are the smaller issues on how to keep the relationship fresh when you're bored to tears looking at each other. And one of the things that we did was kind of accept and acknowledge the fact that we were having to live this life, and set aside date times within the week. Let's make a date time. What will we do Tuesday night? Let's actually go and create something, put the candles out, and spend time thinking about what we're going to talk about, and find something that isn't, God, isn't this awful, and I'm worried about my mum, I'm worried about my family, how about the kids? Putting all that to the side and going back into the good old days where you did talk about how you were feeling and what was happening in the outside world. So that was something that we had to bring into place, because we did get to the point that we wanted to kill each other.
Uh, I have had a lot of experience during the lockdown of people that say it's contributed to the end of their marriage. And I have one case in particular where they actually say the pandemic and their differing views on the pandemic. One person thinks that it's not as serious as everybody says it is. And they're very they have a very strong opinion about that. And the other one is very scared and very concerned. And so this clash of the way they feel about it has actually caused them to get divorced. I mean, that's the only reason. Yeah. Now, the other people that are getting divorced, I think it's, they're, being in that close confines, and when things are already not going well, I mean, what do you do? So that's really, because if you're watching, especially from the perspective of you're contemplating divorce, or you're not happy in your marriage, how do you maintain some sense of yourself when you can't get away from
it's really, it's really tough. And it's one of the situations where communication is even more important than it normally is. We're all about communication. You're a divorce lawyer, but I know that one of the things that you do is you try to coach your clients into healthy communication, even if it's through the divorce process.
Yes.
And this is, it's a situation where we are really forced to be able to sit and listen and respect what the other person's saying. And we both know that that people when they come to us, they think that communication is about learning how to talk to your partner, how to talk to your boss, whatever the situation is. And actually, the biggest part of communication is to listen, and not just listen and respond, but listen and really appreciate and hear what the other person's saying, and take what the other person is saying as their truth. So, if somebody's saying, I am absolutely terrified, and you say, well, for me, it's nothing. For me, I don't care. I'm not going to wear a mask and I'm not going to stay home. Then, if you're actually in front of someone and they're saying, but I am terrified, then respect, is one of the, it's one of the fundamentals in any relationship. Doesn't matter what the relationship is. And your lack of respect to somebody's feelings and somebody's fear is really going to cause a problem. So if you don't care, great. But if they're telling you that they care, don't try and talk them out of the fear. Don't try and tell them that they shouldn't be. Actually respect that fear itself, and find ways to help them cope with it. Ask them, what would make it easier for you? What can we do to make you feel more comfortable in this situation? Rather than just saying, oh, don't worry about it.
And the people that come into my office oftentimes don't care how the other person feels, And so I have another case that has been so frustrating to me, because the parties, they are at such odds with each other that they constantly want to put each other down, constantly. And I tried to tell my client, not successfully, that you don't have to tell him everything he's doing wrong. Because that doesn't help. How many times, Allison, how many times have you seen that be the turning point when you tell somebody how wrong they are? Just what you said. Even if you don't respect them, even if you don't care how they feel, if you say to somebody, you've done this wrong, you've done this wrong, and you've done this wrong, do you think that makes it better? Does that ever make it better, in your opinion?
Absolutely not, because all it does is it puts somebody else on defensive, and so you're on the offensive, they're on the defensive, and they're talking to you from that point. So everything, there's no open communication there. There's no honest communication there, because everybody's defending their own corner at that point. And it doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a divorce or if you're trying to change behavior, because often that's how it starts. That's where the communication starts to really spiral out of control, is when we are unhappy. People start saying things like, if only I could make him understand me. What am I going to say to make him understand me? And we're talking from that point there, rather than saying, okay, it's not about making them understand why I'm unhappy or where they're wrong. It's about me understanding where I'm wrong and me changing my approach to it. You know, what can I do? Am I being triggered by it? Am I being upset by it? Or do I just want to score points? You know, how honest am I going to be with myself? And if I'm going to score points,
This
why?
may not be very enlightened, but I told her to go to the bathroom. And, I should have sent her to a relationship coach, but I said to her, if you can't stop yourself from saying reactive things to him and telling him all the things that he's done wrong, go to another room and don't have a conversation at all. If you cannot stomach him and think everything that comes out of his mouth is vile, then just get out of the room. Because, my mother used to say this thing, if you can't say something nice, how many heard that? Then don't say anything at all.
Say nothing at all.
No, leave the room.
Yeah.
How can people, because I don't really think during their divorce that people are really feeling very much like learning about themselves. I think they just want to lash out.
Yeah.
So what if somebody wants to do that? Yeah. I'm going to see. What do you think about that, Allison?
When they want, lashing out is part and parcel. There's a whole cycle of ending a relationship, whether it's a divorce, there is a cycle. But that's what you've got girlfriends for. That's what you go to the pub and you drink a pint for, to lash out there. That's where you take it. You take it and you offload it on your friends. You get it off your chest so that when you're confronting the situation, you're confronting it without that pent up frustration and anger, because you're not going to come out of it. It's going to cost you more money because you spend more time in your office apart from anything else. Exactly. It's not helpful for anything.
No, but that's the whole thing about the pandemic. People can't get away from each other. And so because they can't get away from each other, it compounds the problems that are already there. They can't leave, or maybe one person has to stay there all the time because their kids are in virtual school. And so they don't have that opportunity to get away from that environment. I think maybe journaling would be helpful, or going outside, somehow getting away from the situation, because it's not the same as it used to be. You can't go out with your friends generally, because even if you we're not in super heavy lockdown, but the people, I have a lot of friends who can't, because of virtual school or whatever, they can't get away anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think, journaling, yes, we're so lucky nowadays. We've got this, we've got Zoom, we've got WhatsApp Messenger, we've got everything at our fingertips to keep in touch with other people. But if you find yourself really in that place where you can't escape even for 5 minutes, just to get out of the house and bring yourself back, hide in the toilet. You're absolutely right. I can't tell you in the last year how long I have spent in the loo, just bringing myself back to me, and having that conversation, because we need to get it out. There's no point. No one's ever saying keep it in. Don't voice your heart. Don't voice your anger. Don't voice it at the person that you're divorcing. That's going to cost you, your mental, your sanity, and and whatever. Go and offload it. Think about it. Scream, shout, punch a cushion. What's her name? Louise Hayes always used to say, if you're full of resentment, if you're full of anger, go and get a cushion and punch the life out of it. Because we need to. And why not? But get away. Give yourself that time. And also, create the boundaries within the house. You've got school, you're both working, or maybe one of you's working. You have certain things that you have to do within the confines of your 4 walls. But within that, you can also carve out time for yourself. You say, okay, Monday evening, I'm not cooking dinner. Monday evening, I'm not eating with the family. I'm not making lunch. Something that is just to take you out of the situation, so that you're not living in each other's pocket constantly. And I say that, you know, we had to do that ourselves.
I think something about when you were saying that, it made me think about the idea of getting it out, like if sending an email and then not sending it, not actually pushing send, or doing a draft, or sending it to one of your friends, or even sending to your, I mean, there's so many times, like right during the first of the pandemic, I was representing a woman who had found out that her husband was having an affair, which we're going to have another podcast on that soon. And so she found out he was having an affair, and there were, you know, she was in lockdown. This was right when we did go into serious lockdown. She was in lockdown. So much depended on how we communicated with this narcissistic, unfaithful, I could say some choice things, but I won't. And so we evaluated, and of course it costs money, but we evaluated every email we sent, because if you're in a high conflict situation, or you're in a situation with a narcissist or someone that's emotionally abusive, the last thing you want to do is stir the pot.
Yeah.
So you need to think about, there's a book, I forgot what it's called. It's called Manipulating the Manipulator. And
I like that.
Yeah, I know, it's very sneaky. But the thing is that you cannot confront somebody like that head on, even if you're just saying the truth and you're not blaming. But if you can't even tell them, because they're going to attack you no matter what. Even if you say, I know you're cheating and blah, 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 they're going to lie. They're going to say whatever. So you just have to kind of pussyfoot. I mean, you know, I don't know how to say it, except it takes a different dynamic. I mean, I know you have a lot of experience with working with narcissism as well. And what would you say about that, Allison?
Yeah, because of course there are two different situations. You know, there are the normal everyday relationships that just are going through a hard time, and then there's the narcissistic one. And with the narcissistic one, you're never going to win. You're never going to get that satisfaction that you really feel that you need. So you have to do that for yourself. You know, you have to be able to let go of that and do the relationship building within yourself and give yourself the satisfaction. And that satisfaction can be not reacting. You know, it's setting yourself those little goals. Okay, I'm not going to rise to the bait. I'm not going to justify myself. I'm not going to send that nasty email. Yeah, I'm going to rise above it. For me, the biggest thing, if you're dealing with a narcissist, is working on not reacting, is working on keeping your, you know, and it's not just keeping your boundaries, but it's keeping it separate. And yeah, what you said is an absolutely fantastic idea, whether it's through a lawyer or whether it's through a third party, a friend that you can trust, not to be emotionally involved, so that all correspondence is fed through them and they can take out the unnecessary parts of any email or whatever. That's a really super way of doing it. And I know that certainly a divorce lawyer divorce coach that I know recommends that any correspondence with a narcissist goes exactly that route, and she offers that service.
And really you want to be as neutral as you can when you're talking to them, because they can either try to make you feel guilty. They'll try to make you feel, I mean, they may appeal to they may say how much they love you, and then they may turn right on you and attack you. So if you just stay neutral, then you are less likely to be sucked into any of that.
Yeah. And also to say, because one side of it, you're absolutely right, is being attacked, but the other side is a narcissist by nature doesn't like to lose, so they will do anything. And a lot of the times that is trying to convince you that they love you, that they need you, that it's your fault, that their heart's broken. And it's very, very important at that point to be able to play the tape in your mind, to have that tape firmly in your mind, so that you're not sucked back into it. Because who doesn't like to hear that you're important? Who doesn't like to hear that somebody misses you and loves you? We all do, no matter what situation.
Right. That's true.
actually having that videotape in your mind, if you like, so that when it occurs, you switch it on and you can move through it immediately.
Yeah. And the last thing that I want to talk about as it regards to the pandemic and conflict is that uh, even if you want to do this fighting and you can't stop it, think about your kids because they're in the house more as well. And I'm sure that Allison agrees with this because it's absolutely true. But your children are impacted and affected by that fighting and that tension, even if you're not fighting, they can
Yeah.
feel it and
Yeah.
you're affecting them. So even if you can't do any of these strategies for yourself, think about what you're doing to your kids.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Allison?
Yeah, absolutely right. Kids don't need words. You know, there is nothing worse than lying to your children, saying, no, no, mom and dad aren't fighting.
Mm.
The kids know, and it confuses their brains. I know they are. I can feel it. I can feel it in the air. They're much more intuitive than us. They feel the energy around them much more than we do. We shut it down as we get older, and then we have to learn to open it up again. They feel it, and if we say, no, no, there isn't a problem, they start to question themselves. They start to question the reality of the world round about them. So honesty is the best policy. Yes, mum and dad are having a hard time. Yes, mum and dad are having discussions. No, it's got nothing to do with you. And yes, it's absolutely normal. That's what adults do, and that's what we're all doing in this, this situation. We're all trying to make the best out of it. So don't be tempted to hide the fact that there is a conflict going on. But yeah, as you say, be very, very aware of the conflict that you're playing in your mind, because you take that out into the room with you. That the kids do feel it, they do know what's going on, and it is very, very confusing for them.
And don't create a battlefield in your home where you try to get the kids aligned with your side. And and I can't even remember who it was. I think it was the Brady Bunch, and may not know who the Brady Bunch. Anyway, so it was a sitcom from the 70s, and I think I remember. I think it was them. Doesn't matter. They divided the house. Okay, so this side was this person's, and this side was this person's, and then one person had the bathroom, one person had the kitchen, and so of course, how are you going to get around that? And so when we set up these artificial boundaries, these kids are with our moms, right? These kids are dad. I mean, that's not good for your children to pit them against the parents. And I mean, it's super unhealthy. Okay. And I'm not a therapist, but I know that, and so how can you avoid that, Allison? Do you have any ideas on that?
I think, is the best thing we can do in any situation, but especially in this situation, this pandemic situation, where we're talking about not necessarily divorce cases, but we're talking about just generally managing our relationships. And I think honesty is the best policy. Even age-related honesty. What you say to a 16-year-old is, of course, is going to be very different to what you would say to a 5 or 6-year-old. But it's difficult to live in somebody else's pocket. It's difficult not to want, our natural instinct is to try to get everyone on our side, to be right. That's, of course we want to be right. But I think to explain the situation, this is where we are. Mum and dad are struggling just as we are struggling with you. We're probably fighting more often than we would do under normal circumstances. That's just what happens. And be aware, question yourself, because that's part of it, is keep going back and questioning yourself. What is my motivation here? And it's very difficult. Sometimes you catch yourself and you say, oh my God, yeah, I am trying to create a fight here. Or, oh my God, yes, I am trying to get the kids to say that dad's wrong. And I've caught myself doing it in the last year, trying to get everybody to say Marco's wrong.
Okay.
So
I see it happen all the time. And from the actual legal perspective, the court encourages people not to talk about the divorce, not to talk about and to insulate the children from the conflict. And it is difficult because especially more than ever, it's difficult to insulate children from what's going on in the house because they're there all the time. And
Yeah.
so I just would caution whoever might be doing that that you don't really want to turn the kids away, against that other parent. I mean, assuming that they're good parents, I'm not talking about somebody that's abusive or somebody that's hurting actually hurting the children in some way. But if this is just somebody who's disagreeing with the way you want to govern during the pandemic or how you feel about spending money on things or whatever, but that they're good parents, you want the kids to have a good relationship with both parents because that's what's best for them. And when you try to get them to side with you or to alienate the other parent, then you're really hurting your kids.
Yeah. And it will come back and bite you on the bum.
Yeah.
It will come back, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but as they grow up, they will have that sense that they had to take sides. And they'll rebel against it. That's what we do. And we don't like to feel that we're being forced into a corner or that we're being forced to do something that's unnatural for us, because it is unnatural as a child to choose one parent over the other. There are times in the cycle where we need our mother more than we need our father, and vice versa. As we get older, we maybe need especially if you're talking about boys. But generally, we need to have a good relationship with both parents if possible, and to feel that we're being forced not to do that or forced away from one parent. Eventually, it will come back and it will cause problems in the parent-child relationship. So, quick term solution just to, or a solution just to make you feel better in the moment is not going to work in the long term. So yeah, let's think about the kids, and let's think about our relationships with them. We want to have the best relationship with them. And the way we do that is by showing them how to have a good relationship with somebody else, even, and more especially, even when we're in conflict with them. It's easy to have a great relationship when you're in love. It's more difficult to do it when we're in conflict.
Right. So the pandemic has certainly put a lot of new challenges on all of us, and we hope that this helped you guys a little bit, and hope that you have a great day and tune in for our next podcast on adultery, just in time for Valentine's Day.
See you soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.